Well, welcome to the final round of the Galactic Wisdom Alliance. Is that the name of Galactic Alliance of Wisdom? Well, there it is, the Galactic Alliance.
Welcome.
Wisdom. It was the final panel. I'm Alan Steinfeld here with Neil Gar and Sheila Seppi, and we've been hosting this 2 days of very intense, very high level, I feel, discussion about awakening to who we are as multidimensional, higher dimensional beings. This kind of transformation we're in is about finding out who we really are. And, you know, we were just talking about maybe these guidelines to, I don't really quite know how to say it, like to go for it, to open up, but also have done some discernment in this higher consciousness interaction. Sheila, how would you say that? How would you phrase that kind of discussion point?
Well, one of the things that I can just tell you from this entire weekend is that all of the speakers that we have had have brought through such unique perspectives. And for me, that goes back and it's a reflection of the fact that we are all individual divine reflections of that one source. And as we have a question that comes through, there's very often similarities, but then we all take off and have our own view. So I'm not sure if that answered your question because I was adjusting sound.
I don't think there's an answer to the question. I think it's something like Victoria talked about a little bit, and I'll go to Victoria next, but it's something we're all learning how to trust our own mind. I think psychology has done us a great service, but it's also done us a disservice. And so each remote viewing, I say, trust those impressions, even if you're down, trust what's coming to you. So, but Victoria, you talked about the process of breaking away from your mind control upbringing to realize who you really were. How did you do that?
Well, it was actually what I realized is I've always been very intuitive. I started remembering that when I was a child, I would ask my parents questions that none of the adults around me knew how to answer. And I have just always questioned everything. So even now, when information comes in, I question it. So when I first realized more about who I was, it was little signs along the way. So for example, I knew that the name I was using, Margaret Fuder, wasn't the correct name for my author book. And I had written this book, but I hadn't published it yet because I didn't feel it. I kept getting this before I knew anything about Victoria, I kept getting this insight that it's not the right name. How can my name not be the right name? So I was sitting on the beach one day and there was a dad there with his kids and I was there with my kids. And then the dad said, Victoria, it's time to come out of the water. And it was like these lightning bolts. That's my name. And I came home and I started Googling Victoria. Who is this Victoria person that's right? It was the Queen Victoria. I'll trying to figure out who it is. And then I put two and two together that there was this entity kind of like Abraham. Okay, so I told my husband, I said, I'm channeling this woman named Victoria. And he said, you mean like that Esther Hicks freak? Yeah, you can't tell people you do that. So I said, is it okay if I use her name? So that's actually why I started using the name Victoria in all my writing. And it took me a while to realize that I and Victoria were the same. And I actually had a friend with that. She said, she was one of my spiritual teachers. And she said, you know, so-and-so I was talking to the other day and he channels his higher self like you do, but he doesn't use his higher self name. And I was like, oh, that's my higher self I'm channeling. I said, no, she tells me when I sit down on the couch with her that she is me and I am her.
Right.
I mean, I was so new at all this. And so it would just come in like that. But one of my questions when these when these messages started coming in, and I sat with that, because I would write in a notebook. I still write in a notebook every day when I do my, because for me that solidifies it. I took my notebook and I said, how can I tell the difference between inspiration and imagination? And the answer was, they are the same.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I had to learn how to trust that imagination and inspiration are the same. We're basically tapping into this higher realm where everything comes from. Now, one of the things that I learned to do years ago is to create spiritual protection around myself. So before I write anything down, before I ask for information to come through, I set very clear parameters of who isn't allowed into my head.
That's
And
good.
if it's not the highest loving divine truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, you are not allowed into my head. And I ask my ego to set aside any expectations and interpretations. So what comes in is the purest, highest loving divine truth. If
Right.
I'm walking around through my day and messages start coming in, I will actually stop. I'll ask who it is. I'll do my energy clearing. And if that message is still coming in, that it's good, but sometimes that message is gone. It's like it just disappeared from my awareness. So I know it was not a loving entity that was trying to get into my head, or it wasn't the highest loving truth. So I think there is, at this point, until we live in a purely love-based reality, we do need to create some protection around ourselves, especially if we're telepathic, to make sure that the posers, it's a good word for it, infiltrators, don't get through. And unfortunately, it's really easy. If people don't do their protection work, it's really easy for infiltrated messages to get in.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, someone just sent me a Instagram post that was a fake post of some reader. And it's like, oh, it sounds like the real thing, but it didn't have like the blue check. And it's like, we need this blue check. So Neil, you want to say something here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so I like the topic of discernment. We've had a few conversations about it and did whole panels on it. Because, you know, as on Portal Ascension, we work with so many people. So, and not everybody I can vet out thoroughly or read all the books. Actually, almost everybody I can't read deep dive into that content. So there's one level of the discernment of what, you know, everybody's talking about here, which is receiving information and your discernment on what you're receiving, right? And then there's the discernment of the person that's receiving the information that you're giving out to them, and then they have to use their discernment to see and sort through if this information is valid. So when it comes to really understanding, you know, where this information is coming from, I like to look at what kind of traumas it might be stemming from as well, and also what kind of inner work the individual has done to get to a point of objective neutrality to be able to convey information as a pure channel. Because a lot of times, I'll give a good example here, not to go political at all, but let's just say, you know, that there are those that are being abused and molested and child abuse going on around the world, especially with the elite. Now, this is actually occurring, but then there are those that have experienced it in their life that jump to accusing people that might not actually be doing it because of the wounds they have received, and they're ready to jump and accuse those others. Right. So when you get to a point where you're doing the inner work, that's why it's important for all the people that are really bringing this information out to continue being at that state, meditating and getting to that place so we can receive that information. And then when we relate to someone, it's not based on any objective. It's not like we need to convince you. So these are the kind of things that I look at when I speak to people and have them on Portal to Ascension, because, you know, as I can't really go any deeper than that, I just have to really take it from the first original conversation. So that's just a little bit that I wanted to add there.
It's also this feeling of truth. Someone speaks or channeling and it hits me, and that rings true. And, you know, Phil's been around this area for a long time. Phil, I know you wanted to say something about this, so jump in. Wait, unmute so we can hear your words of wisdom.
In our teachings, and I'm referring here to the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. We teach about 12 attitudes. I'm sorry, I'm in a lot of pain this morning. This is the truth. I literally slipped on a banana last night in the kitchen. I literally slipped on a banana. But you know, comes, but you know, when I drop down into teaching mode, I'm serious as you know what.
Yes.
Luckily, I can go switch it on and off. We talk about the 12 attitudes of mastery. We talk about love as recognition of the truth of the all oneness. We talk about grace, allowing the all oneness to be what it is, regardless of whether it suits you in any present moment. Living perpetual forgiveness. We talk about gratitude, appreciating the all oneness, knowing your aliveness, reverence and respect, responsibility, trust, which is knowing the power of the all oneness. Eventually you've got to take a stand. Even the
Yeah.
fence is being pulled out from under us.
Mm.
And your concept of the truth may be the most transient of all things,
Right.
but it's getting to a point where I think we're in this critical juncture in our tenure as embodied souls where we have to make a stand. And I love this. Hope, Victoria, I hadn't met you or known you before this conference. Vivianne, I had the pleasure of meeting several years ago. And as you said, and Alan, of course, and Jodi, we grew up together. Right? But you said the other day, and Neil, God bless you. This is where we're at now. And like you said, trust. And again, if you feel you've been in violation or you've been violated, you've got to forgive. And you've got to be grateful for just the opportunity to be self-aware enough and acknowledge the fact that the forgiveness is appropriate.
Self-awareness is a big piece. And I think trust, and I always say, this is what I do. This is not the truth. This is just my truth. Rumi says, run away from anyone who says they have the truth and run towards people who are looking for the truth. So I think we've all been around a long time and we've seen people say, this is how it is, the end of the world, or whatever it is. And it's like, that is always suspicious for me because it's just truth. It's not the truth. So that's my little edge. What do you say, Vivianne? How do you work with that?
I love it. Thank you so much, Alan. Always refreshing to be in your presence. So truth, thank you. Truth is as subjective as realities. If you look at, from your perspective, your great wisdom, what you have been experiencing, whether it's filters, whether it's past lives, whether it's your soul purpose, whether it's your experience. So truth will be reflecting as you're allowing to flow through you, to reflect the truth of your soul, the truth of your heart. And there are a multitude of jewels in sharing that truth from that place of interconnections to yourself. Again, it really depends on what part of you speak on what. And so when you start to really shift the conversation and listening, we feel that even words, verbal communication will be shifting into more on a quantum level, more like quantum language, whether it's energetic, whether it's heart energy. So we're going to redefine how we can relate to each other, like your truth as an interconnection point with my truth. And we can see that we're coming into a higher divine truth. And this is where things going to start to get more and more interesting. So trusting yourself, be in your heart, stay in your light. And you will say that truth will become something much more palpable and accessible to you, as opposed to being filtered by all the mental complexity that we've been thought of. We need to disengage from those mental entanglements and reveal what truth means to you and to all of us as a community of light.
Yeah, no, thank you. Me, and that there's also reminds me that there's levels of consciousness. So what's true for someone who's living in the material world, it's impossible for them to consider channeling or higher dimensions. It's just not that truth. Doesn't matter if it's real for you. And then there's things that are not real for me that some people say. It's just like, I accept the fact that people have had UFO abductions. I think I've had one. But when they say they've been to Mars and jumping to Mars, that's where I draw the line. I'm not saying that's not true. Just saying that's not been my reality of jumping. I'd like it to, but
Could I ask a follow-up question to this truth question?
yes.
So the question here is, okay, yeah, well, there are many truths, billions of truths. Is there a cosmic truth? Is there one universal truth? And is there a truth beyond the universe that we're not privy to because we're just within this universe? And maybe the truth of this universe is just a fractal of a bigger multiverse.
Right. I don't think we, I don't know. Hope, you're shaking your head. And so what do you have to say? Yes.
Well, I really tune into that, Neil. I think I've kind of developed a way, because when it's just like we were, I think Jodi or somebody was talking about religion, or maybe it was Victoria, how, it gets concretized. We get an idea and then we put it in a box like we know it. So that now it's solid. And I don't like to do that. I think, the actual truths that we can actually know are just very, very few, maybe on one hand, but there are lots and lots of ideas. So what I say is, pretend you're holding on to a bunch of helium balloons, and each balloon has an idea in it, and worthy ideas. And some balloons are bigger than others, depending on how much research somebody's done or how much, whatever experience somebody's had. But I keep them not in me. I keep them over here. And only when it is irrefutable, or I get a download or whatever, that one of those balloons is something I could call a universal truth, that's when I pull it in, but not until then. So they just float with me until that moment. So that's how I do it.
I think this is really important because, and I'll get to you in a second, Jodi, because we've been talking about some really out there things that aren't real for some people, but they're real for us. But it's not accepted within the social consciousness. So we have to really make this bridge by knowing who we are and what's true for us. So that's what I was thinking. Yeah, Jodi. Yes.
There's a responsibility in doing this work, because to ourselves and also to whoever we're, the world in a sense, the bigger sense. And it's how, the ability to respond to the choices that you're making. So, but also some people don't want to hear the truth. Like sometimes I'll do a reading and people will say, well, do you just tell them stuff anyway? If it comes through, it's because they're ready to hear it, but they may not realize they're ready to hear it yet. So they may just not pay attention to it. So their responsibility is to take what makes sense for them, at the same time as our responsibility is to bring it in as clearly as possible. And that's why, for me, that's why I do the work on myself, to clear out any of my own stuff, so that when I'm doing this, I'm actually a conscious channel. I'm present. I hear everything, but I could be like over here, even though I'm just speaking like this. So it's like kind of checks and balances, to make sure that I'm not so far out that, for me anyway, that anything could be happening and I'm not paying attention, so. But I know people who do channeling where they completely leave their body, the medium, they go completely out. They don't remember anything. I was told years ago, I was asking, is it less true if I'm here while it's happening? And they said, this way I'm learning at the same time and I'm embodying it at the same time, so that I can speak to people afterward if I need to. So, but some people don't want to hear the truth. So if they're coming for a channeling and that's what comes through, they're going to have to just decide and work with it on their own. That's their part of the responsibility, to do whatever you want with that information.
I think what Neil was also saying, Victoria, is that depending on what level of consciousness you are, that's the level of truth that can resonate with. And some people are ready, and some people, have to go through whatever.
My guide will speak to the people in the way that they can at least hear it. It changes what they talk about with different people, because people are ready for different things.
There's also trust. But Victoria, what did you want to say? Victoria
was adding to what Neil had asked. So one of the first downloads I received was along the lines that human beings are given information when our minds are mature enough to be able to conceive it. So it's like trying to teach advanced math concepts, geometry, to a kindergartner. they just won't get it. But what's happening is that the human mind is evolving enough to be able to understand more advanced concepts. And the more our minds evolve, the more information will be given to us. So there may be a multiverses of information out there that we haven't received yet because our minds can't grasp it yet.
Right. But I
Yeah.
also sometimes where, you might get something and you like Jodi and the skull, that's the next episode, but it was on the skull. Or Sheila, you had this awakening, you had no idea what was going on. How were you able to trust that inner guidance to say, of course you healed yourself. It's always good to have evidence like that, like something real is happening. But how did you make that awakened transition there?
For me, one of the first things that I had to learn was, what was my truth? What did I even believe? Because coming in with knowledge that I did not believe in, I had to somehow bring that into alignment in a way that I could accept it in the reality that I was in right then. And so that was a great learning process. What is my truth? The other thing is, about a year being a walk-in, I had an experience where I began having these tall beings come to work with me. They called themselves the laws of karma, and there were 12 of them. When I got to the end of the 12th one, I was taking a shower, and all of a sudden this silvery blob of an eyeball appeared right in my shower. And I'm sitting there looking at it. First, I'm in total shock. Second, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm naked. What is this thing? And then all of a sudden it opens up, and I literally saw it blink. And of course I screamed. And then I heard coming into me, you now have been given the gift of discernment. And from that point on, I was able to weigh the thoughts that I had originally had versus the information that was coming in. And it was like this huge reconciliation. Now, not everybody's going to see a big eyeball that blinks at them in the shower, but we all have that opportunity to take what we know and to weigh it with what's coming in, that new information, and to address what Neil said about the cosmic truth. I think that there are some basic guiding principles, such as we are all one. We all do come from the one source, but some people don't believe that. But for me, that would be a guiding principle that I've come to know and to understand, that law of oneness. And the other thing for me is to know that love is one of the highest vibrating frequencies, if not the highest vibrating frequency that there is. And so if we are in a place of self-doubt, we're not necessarily resonating within that love frequency for ourselves, because we have to really drop into, what do we believe and who am I?
Alan, I just want to say something. Sheila, what you're saying here is, you said there's truth and there's belief.
Yes.
So that there's a universal truth we're all one, but there's the belief that allows you to, let's say, holographically create your separation.
Yeah.
And the phrase that I said a few years ago, I like saying now, is like the most unconditional thing the light ever did was allow the darkness to exist within it. Yes. They're not separate, they're all one. And so let's say that the darkness just could represent duality, separation, but it still exists within that one speck of light experiencing itself, right?
Well, there's the belief that all is one. You can make it a dogma in religion, or you can have the experience when you're in a group of people and you're feeling it. You can't argue with feeling, or experience. So we have to then allow the experience, I think, to lead us into knowing what our truth is. I doubted all this stuff up until when I saw my first channel. I said, okay, I'll check out this woman who claims to channeled through this 35,000-year-old warrior from Atlantis, Ramtha, if anyone knows that reference. And I went to this channeling and I thought, either this woman is crazy, she's a great actor, maybe like a small percent, maybe something like that. Because I was coming from a very psychological, I just had graduated college, psychology, and everything was psychological. So I went to this channeling and, Ramtha's up on stage marching around.
Alan, you can't hear you.
Phil, or like somebody. So he calls on me and says, "What say you, beloved entity? How be you this day in your time?" So it's like a voice from beyond. But what happened to me in that moment, I had this out of body experience where I merged with this Ramtha, and we kind of this embrace, and my consciousness was altered. And then I realized, well, maybe there is something to this. Maybe it was an experience that awakened me. And then I knew that, I was more than my body, that maybe these mystical teachings are true. And then I checked it out. I figured if this mysticism or whatever happened to me is real, then it'd be like a deep path. If it was fake, then it would be really superficial. So start to read these mystical books and these teachings and then it took me deep in. It's like, once you go through that door, it shuts behind you and like you're in it, and it is deep. It's the deepest journey we can take is into the mystical. Yes, Vivianne. Yes.
Thank you so much, Alan. That was incredible what you just shared, and the energy, the experience behind it. I felt it. I would like to say just a few words. I need to disconnect because I do have a client waiting for me. Jodi calls for me. So I just want to add that how much it's been an absolutely pleasure and a privilege to be a speaker at this incredible conference, and the energy behind it. Sheila, what you put into the energy, Neil, you, Alan, and what you co-creating as an opportunity for all of us to shine. And ultimately, if I just briefly looking at our Arcturian history and how we have evolved, well, we have gone through a multitude of vibrational shift in order to achieve unification and enlightenment where we are today. So all of this, it really is a multitude of vibrational shift and experiences. And every time that you are allowing yourself to move forward, you are simply allowing yourself to go into a higher dimensional experience that allows you to rediscover different truth, whether it's experiences, connections, and you're just simply evolving. So I just want to add this beautiful layer. And remember that ultimately we are many expressed as one in the one singularity mind of the prime creator. So we always says, walk in the certainty of your light, trust who you are, rediscover your inner universe so you can understand the huge universe that you are a part of. And again, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be here today.
Vivianne, before you go, I just want to say thank you for trusting your own truth, for bringing through teachings, but not just teachings, the being, the harmony, and the peace that you bring to this gathering. Sheila, did you want to say something too, or anybody else about Vivianne?
Oh, I also appreciate you being here. I know you've got a huge schedule, and for carving out time was greatly appreciated. I love the truth that you bring through. I love the perspective. I love the energy. And I think that everyone really benefits from just the frequency and the resonance of your voice, and especially the activations. That was absolutely wonderful yesterday. So thank you so much, my sister. And I know we will talk soon.
Oh,
À tout à l'heure, Vivianne. À tout à l'heure. Vive
à
la
tout à
France.
l'heure.
Vive
Merci.
la révolution.
Phil, is that Arcturian with a French accent? Or I knew it sounded familiar to me, but
Yeah.
way
Showing off a little French, that's all.
but Also want to ask you, Sheila, I asked Neil, do we want to bring everyone who's still left in the room on to add something? And we've done that a few times. But
Sure.
Yeah, well, as we
Well,
close out,
this
right?
is-
In a
This is
few
my
minutes.
favorite part of these conferences, when
Yeah,
everybody
sounds
comes.
good. I do have another question I want to pose to the panel, though.
before we,
Just and then we can bring everyone on. Is that good, Alan?
yeah, let's have a few minutes, then we'll bring everyone in.
So here's something I've been thinking about for a long time, over like 10 years. And so when I first woke up to a lot of this awareness, I first thought I was Arcturian, right? And I kept telling everybody I was Arcturian. I was telling myself that. Then all of a sudden I had a realization that Earth is a planet, a gift, a reward for many souls that have incarnated in so many different realities. And it's like the next level, the next game, the more challenging level after achieving so much was my realization. And as I started understanding this, I started thinking that we've actually incarnated in many different realities. I've been a Pleiadian many times. I've been Arcturian many times, all over. But the theme of specific races are valid for my incarnation now. And that's why we pull on specific ones, even though we may have been Pleiadian multiple times. So I'm not saying any of that is true. I'm asking you, what do you feel the truth is in relation to this? And it's a long question, guys. And have we incarnated in all dimensions? And how does that quantify with us moving into a higher dimension if we're already in that dimension?
We are all those things, Neil.
Right.
We have identities in the Pleiades, in Sirius, in Arcturus, Orion, Andromeda, in the Lyran systems. All that is encoded in our DNA. And as someone will say, oh, I'm Pleiadian, I have Pleiadian memories. That's because the fifth strand is starting to activate. As we get higher strand activation, all these memories are going to come in. And I like what Victoria said about we're not given more than we can handle. I know some people try to force stuff in without knowing how much they can take at any particular time. But it's important to know your capacity at any given time, because if you're given too much, or if you try to access too much at any given time, it's going to be lost on you. And if it's lost on someone, it's going to be lost to the world, because it's meant to come in and through to be of service, you know? So also we have to, the way our brains are convoluted now, we're doing a pretty good job. Eventually we'll evolve into eternal cognition and that one-ment in co-creatorship with Source. But I think we're doing pretty good. Listen, a lot of us didn't ask for that. Well, maybe we did, but I know a lot of people out there are probably thinking, when are the angels going to come in through my window? When am I going to wake up? They're going to be standing at the foot of the bed. Or when are the voices going to come through me? Listen, I grew up a lot of my childhood and teens. I felt like I was transported into a Doctor Strange comic book. It's not always easy, but we have more of each other now and more of ourselves. The higher intelligence is not going to, people have been talked down to and dumbed down for so long. We're being asked to raise it now. We're being asked to take a higher mantle of responsibility now. And I think we're definitely up to the task.
I also want to just address Neil's question, is that, Neil, we've been everything. On one level, these are just avatars. We sit in a field of forever emanating creation out of this one mind that each of us are really a fractal of. This experience of these incarnations, I feel, this is just my truth, is to experience that individuality as we start to evolve into the oneness. So we've been on all those planets, but we're also learning about integration. And, yes, time is all happening at once, but this time is about moving into dimensional realities. And that's why we're all here. Everyone in this room is here, everyone listening. It's like we are doing a new experience for the human incarnational mind. So that's why we're exploring these things, and we're bringing in I feel a greater truth. That's just my end.
I agree 100%. Just to have the last part of the question, so you can answer, Sheila, as well, is well, if we've incarnated all dimensions and time isn't what we think it is, are we incarnated there now? And if we are, why are we talking about going back to somewhere we already exist in?
One of the things that I've been shown is, yes, we do. We are existing, but because we are within this earth matrix and we have that veil of forgetfulness, part of this experiment, part of the experience is for us to rediscover who we truly are. And it's more of, bringing that knowledge in and anchoring it into who we are, because we are already that. But we have to increase our levels of consciousness. And as we increase those levels of consciousness, we can anchor in the fifth dimension and have maybe a stronger relationship with our multidimensional Palladian selves, or even the memories of those Palladian lives. Then we anchor in, the 60, 70, 80, we begin to move up that ladder, because still, even in human form, we're able to anchor in those higher consciousness levels. It is a matter of us, remembering who we are, dropping into that essence and doing the work. Because I see that we go, just kind of like we have all these little circles behind me, all of these could be considered like little learning pods, and we have to move through all of these learning situations, until we actually finally end up where we are. And I think humanity is at that, like we've talked many times, at the Kali Yuga, at the changing of the times. And right now, I think more and more people are opening up and anchoring in the truth of who they are.
Yes.
Thank you. So just to recap what you just said there. So what I'm getting is that on this linear time, we're progressing forward towards something. But what we're progressing towards are these realities we already exist within, and are regaining our memories and our connection, not memories really, it's actually a connection to our other selves that already exist there, so that this version of ourselves can also feel that wholeness that maybe our higher levels already feel, right?
Beautifully said. Yeah, exactly.
You've been around the block a few times, and you've had many different perspectives, and you have this great overview of your multidimensional self. So like what Neil said, we're already there, but yet we're still here. So how do we get to where we already are at as a process of our own evolution? Does that make sense, Jodi?
I spaced out for a second. What was the question? Sorry.
We said we're already at those levels, but yet we're in this human form, evolving towards the kind of consciousness that a part of us already is at. So what's the point of it all, basically?
Well, I think we're multidimensional. So we're in different timelines, dimensions. We are like the past life part within the same lifetime of our future self. So if we hold a focus that we've already created what we really want, if it's for our highest good, I always ask for the highest good of myself and everyone else. If we hold that focus, then we're already just trying to catch up to the fact that we already created something. But we have so many things that get in the way in the lower parts of our consciousness, that things we've been taught, you can't just have everything, like all these kind of things. But also I feel like it has to be for your highest good, meaning for your alignment of that divine essence and presence. And but I believe the same, I see the same thing as if we're already where we're trying to get to. I mean, as a whole understanding of humanity, if we're really staying focused on what we really want to create, that's in a positive way, that's that oneness energy, unity consciousness, we're already there. We just have to kind of grow into it.
Yeah. What about you, Hope? I mean, do you have anything to answer to Neil's question? And
Well, it's a great question. I can't pretend to have an answer, but what I can say is one day I was channeling, and Creator came in. Well, I call it Creator Force. This is more of a force. And I was I don't know how we got on this topic, but I was asking him something about humanity, and I say him, but just because for lack of a better pronoun, but Creator Force was saying how much he loved humanity. And I said, well, that's great. What do you love about humanity? And he said, I love how they make choices. And what he did was he showed me the 88 keys of a piano. And I said, well, don't all beings, I'm thinking different planets, different dimensions, et cetera, don't they all make choices? He said, yes, and he showed me the piano again. He said, they make choices from middle C up because they're not embodied the way you are. Humanity on Earth gets the whole 88 keys. And how they play that symphony, how they put together their melody is really what delights Creator and kind of it's a simple thing, but it makes total sense, right?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So like Victoria, you already, my feeling is you always knew you were Victoria, but yet Margaret didn't know she was Victoria. And so, right? Is that true? So on some level, you already exist as that higher self. And you
Right.
had to
and so my higher self, my personality self, when we finally made that connection, the understanding that came in when I asked, when my personality self asked, what I said to her is, I needed to have boots on the ground. So there was a point where even that my higher self was there and was always in Margaret. Margaret just wasn't aware that stream was already there. So what happened is that at higher, what actually occurred is that now my 8th density self is now in this body. But I exist up through all the dimensions. Not all of me isn't here. I actually have communications with my 12th dimensional self now. And so, yeah, the personality self didn't know that because the religion I grew up, there was no such thing. It was like, you got one shot, this is it, you screw it up, you pay for it for the rest of eternity. So the idea that when I grew up thinking that my soul, that all of me was, I don't know, in my gut or something. I don't know where I thought it was, but now understanding that most of me actually isn't in this body. Most of me is out there.
Right. And that's what's so important about these conversations, Sheila, that you're doing every week, that Neil and I and Jodi and Hope and Phil have been doing, is that we're learning to define ourselves differently. We only are as great as how we define ourselves. And that's defined by the old paradigm that says you're this small person. But as we become more of a cultural influence, our definitions of who we are expand in the way we hold ourselves in consciousness expand. So I think it's so important to keep these dialogues and conversations going because it becomes a cultural meme that other people can learn this language. And you can only learn a language when you know it's true. And as we learn it and kind of influence, because people are wanting this, then a new consciousness is building and a new level of reality is being created. Right, Phil? Anything from you, Phil? Absolutely, he says. I'll read his lips. Yes, he's saying, wait, unmute yourself. It'll make it much easier.
You're reading it.
No, absolutely. I was just writing to everybody. I have to go now. My physical therapist is on the way, but much love to everyone. See you soon. Cosmic Conversations, February 2nd, me and Mariana Leah talking about the Pisces Sophia. February 9th, talking about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Much love to you all. Okay?
Okay.
See you soon. No more bananas in this house.
Okay, sure. And you'll include this Phil in that banana.
Bye-bye now.
But just before we let everyone into the room, this is what we like to do, Hope and Victoria, if you haven't been here before. Like, people are still in the chat. We bring them all into the pool, like everyone in the pool, like for a little splash party there. But before we do that, we just want, like, how about like a closing, like, word or, moments or reflection or something. Hope, or you want to think about or anything you want to say? about everything. Yes.
About anything?
About everything we've experienced this weekend.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I'm really blown away by every person. And I realize I have been in such a silo. I've just been, swimming upstream by myself for so long. And it's been like a bath of deliciousness to be hearing from everybody, to be feeling your energy and all the different perspectives really, really, I feel upgraded me. And so I'm deeply grateful to you guys, to everybody, but Alan and Neil and Sheila, of course. And I am going to leave here, and then my next communication with my tribe is going to be run, don't walk, to by this weekend.
Yes, thank you. Wow. And to other Portal to Ascension events. How about, thank you being here. I knew you were a star. I knew you had to belong to this community. That was just because she was saying things I was hearing here, and it's like, I just love matchmaking. So thank
you, Alan.
And Victoria, what about you? Any words you want to say about your experience or what you want?
I'm going to piggyback on Hope. So I've been doing this work for about 12 years and feeling like an individual light out there. Just, lighting candles where I can here and there. And it has been so amazing to feel like I found my family. Mm-hmm. And last night and tonight, well, I think it really started about a year ago, Alan, when I met you and I met Neil and I met Joan, and the family just started coming together. And I am so incredibly grateful to be here and to be part of this, part of the family. And it's, I let my other family go, trusting that another family would show up, and here you all are. So I'm really incredibly grateful for being here.
Thanks for being here too, and for allowing yourself to be vulnerable and be all of that you are. So that's the truth of feeling someone's experience, when you feel their vulnerability. So thanks. And what about you, Jodi, Serota? How are you doing?
I'm grateful. Thank you so much for having me. And to meet all of you, I haven't met any of you two before. So hope we all keep in touch. And also I wish we could all be in the same place, just to hang out. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to do that. But
San Diego for the Portal to Ascension live conference, right?
So I'm just listening to everyone. It's just amazing what we all go through to just be on this planet. But I just want to put out to just be hopeful. I feel like it's really important. It's a hard time to go through, but if we're here, we were meant to be here. And I feel like we have the capacity within us all, and more people around, and all the other people that are on these calls. We're here because we're meant to be here. I feel like we've met with our councils of light. It's like a board of directors of our own consciousness to kind of come in and talk it over. And we're told a lot of things, and we get here and then we're like, oh my God, I forgot everything. And what am I doing here? But I think it's all starting to kind of fuse into ourselves now, so that as we all just do what we're meant to be doing, I feel like it connects to the greater whole. And I really believe that we're all going to get through this, and there may be rough times, but hopefully we just keep holding intentions that it'll be easier, and that the future of who we already are in this experience, we've already gotten there, maybe sooner than people are predicting. So hopefully we'll all
is right there on our screen, but there's hope.
Right.
Hope.
Right there.
Hope.
The future of all of us.
I think that's it's evidence this weekend. This is just my thing, and then Sheila and then Neil, and we'll let people in. And then Neil can conclude if you want to with some wrapping words once everyone ends. But these gatherings show that we're not alone in the dark. You know, we're not this lone candle, that we actually can speak a common language that is internal to our experience. You know, we've all had these mystical experiences, and how do you tell someone about that? Well, you meet someone who can relate to that, and then you realize there's something evolving, I'm feeling, in humanity that allows us to come together and share these really strange, bizarre, or what would be in the old paradigm, strange things that don't really make sense to other people, but it makes sense to us. So either we're all crazy or we're evolving the potential of these conscious realities to the next level. So I choose to think that way, that there's an evolution of connection and of the mind, and that there is something out there that wants us to graduate to the next level. And it's unseen only because we haven't been taught to recognize it. So we can't cognize it. But my thing is, let's cognize new reality so we can recognize it. So this has been great for me, just to be, of course, I talk about this stuff all the time, but to talk about this with people that understand and bringing in their own resources to add to our collective pool. And everyone in the chat is doing that as well. So thank you. Thank you, everyone who's been with us all weekend, and the speakers. And I'm just also grateful to have met Sheila and Neil, and of course, Jodi from 40 years ago, and Hope and Victoria and everyone else who's been here. So thank you. Sheila, how was this for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. I always love doing these events, and I think we spoke about this earlier, how it feels as if each event builds upon itself. This event feels extremely rich, extremely deep, and I think that a lot of people had realizations based on some of the comments that have been made, some of the questions. It'll be interesting to see how everyone else perceived it, but I'm very grateful for everyone having to come and to join us this weekend. I want to thank you, whether you're in the audience watching us on YouTube, the speakers, of course, thank you so much. I loved every one of your presentations, and I took something away. And I always leave these events, you know, growing a whole lot more than when I came in. So I can really feel those activations and how they are propelling me to a next level. So thank you guys so much. And obviously, thanks to Neil and to Alan. Thank you guys so much for supporting Galactic Alliance and, you know, kind of being the rock and the foundation for these events. Thank you so much.
Check out Galactic Alliance, because this is with life. It's her dream. She's living her truth, and Galactic Alliance is something that needs that support. So thanks. And Neil, our master of ceremonies, yes, what do you have?
Well, I mean, there's so much been said, you know. I'm really just like tuning into it all right now. And honestly, like, we're going through a great, not just a great awakening, but a great remembering. You know, this is challenging, I guess. You know, it's challenging for me too, to embrace all of this darkness, all this chaos, and all this confusion and forgetfulness as a necessary step for us to awaken, to remember who we are, right? However, it's inevitable. When I see chaos, I just see the opportunity for light. When I see people, systems crumbling, economic systems falling, old paradigms, institutions going down, it's just giving us the opportunity to create something new, something that works for all of us. And if these systems continued, if the status quo continued, the status quo will continue to happen, and people will stay within this construct. And as one system collapses and another one emerges, there's going to be a little bit of confusion, especially when we're a little bit of chaos and fear, a lot of fear maybe, especially when we've held on to these institutions that we pretty much relied on, these fake systems, monetary system, Wall Street, or it's like we're in inception within inception. We're so incepted within the matrix that we need to like wake up from one dream to realize we're in another dream, to get out of that dream, to finally wake up to the true dreams, And so what we're doing here is the beginning phases, like Alan, you said in the beginning of the conference that I think it was you said that we're just having these conversations. We're right at the beginning stages of it. And I always, whenever I hear that, I always feel like, every zodiac age, there's a new faith on the planet, right? We're in a new zodiac. Every 2,000 years, there's a new thing, Hinduism happened during the cow cult ages, right? Like, same with Moses, Mount Sinai, Jesus, the fish, Pisces. We're in a new age. If you look at history will tell us that something is about to shift. So it's more about is it going to shift? It's about what we're going to create with what is happening, right? So that's why we're having these conversations, and I'm just really happy to have a team to do it with, and so I am hopeful as well, extremely hopeful that we're going to come out of this brighter, better, and stronger.
Right. Beautiful. That is a beautiful. So should we let everyone into the pool?
Let's do it.
You could come in if you want to share something or doesn't have, you don't have to say how great or whatever this weekend, but share what you've learned, and what you want to, others may want to learn from what you've learned, or, not too long, but everyone, if you want to share something, just including Willow. Oh, Willow's leaving there. Okay. So
Willow
you want
is exiting the room.
to bring people. So we're going to make everyone a panelist, right?
Oh, Pauline, I see Pauline's in the room, so I must have missed her earlier. So sorry, Pauline, but I think you're the panelist now.
Okay. Yeah, Pauline.
Oh, Pauline came in at 8:15. We started late. We started early. I gave her the wrong time.
It's okay. No. She can say something now. Pauline.
Yeah, let's bring Pauline in. And everybody, I'm bringing you all in here, but let's get Pauline on first. And before you go, Pauline, let me just, hi, Pauline. Let me just say to everybody that's tuning in on YouTube, we forgot to mention, we're at the tail end of a 2-day conference, 10 hours a day. So you're seeing us right at the end of this event. And if you're interested in attending this conference and seeing the replays and have unlimited replay access, go to portal2ascension.org, online events, and it's right there. It's the first event there. You can take a look there right now if you want to, and see what we experienced. But that's where you can find out more. So, all right. I'm so bringing everybody on. Hey, Pauline, how are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Pauline has some walk-in experience too. For those watching, we just met her in Mexico, and you just unmute at the lower left-hand corner there. You see that? Lower left where their microphone is red. You can unmute down there. Here, I'll just ask you.
Yeah, I just did it too.
I did too.
But while Pauline's doing that, I want to ask Froda from Norway, unmute yourself, and you're up there in the outback of Norway. What was it like to hear this conversation in the middle of the wilderness?
No, I actually live with Ås. So yeah.
What?
Now, I have a degree in nature science. So I actually wrote about how the paradigm is the problem. So the way we think and the consciousness is the problem for the whole world. So I have been experienced other consciousnesses my whole life, I think. When I was a little child, I liked to lie down in the snow and connect to the stars. And in Norway, we have a 3-month winter. So I grew up on a farm and been very connected to the universe and the deep consciousness. And lately I've been studying with Peggy Dubrow Phoenix about the being of the field. So I experienced being of the field a lot.
This weekend you experienced.
So now I'm just very deep into the consciousness, and I can feel if I take decisions in my consciousness, like connecting to the higher will, I feel like boop, 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 connecting up and down and left and right. And also, I feel like we can clear consciousness with vibrations, like going deep and high and wide.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today and this weekend. And Patricia, are you clear about that book now? Because we're worried about that. So, unmute yourself. Patricia Coden.
There I am.
What was happening for you?
Alan, this has been really, really heart-opening and eye-opening for me because I have the absolute confidence to finish volume 2. I mean, tuning into spirit, that came in back in 1983. I've been channeling these beloved guides who have been there for me, giving me all this great information. And they told me, I thought this was going to be the only book I ever wrote. So I put volume nothing. And they insisted put volume 1 because there will be a volume 2. And you've all inspired me now to finish it. I only have 5 more writings and I'll have 40 and it'll be ready to go.
All right.
So, thank you.
We're waiting for.
So
Okay.
I think, Pauline, is your microphone working now? No, still nothing. You're unmuted, but your microphone's not coming through. All right, we'll try again. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, yeah, we're not, anyone else? Terry, do you want to put yourself on camera and unmute yourself? And then if no one else wants to join, then some people are not.
And let me just say to everybody, if you are not a panelist and you want to be one, let me know in the chat because I believe I've asked everybody. So just let me know if you want to come on.
Yeah, Terry's an old friend of mine and Hope. So how was this for you, Terry?
Well, I have to be honest, I had pre-existing plans this weekend. So I caught snippets, but I'm really looking forward to watching this this week. And, what really comes to me is that we've all been brought together in different ways. I met Jodi probably 35 years ago through someone completely unrelated to this group in the early 80s. I don't know if you remember Jodi, but it was probably 40 years ago. And then I used to run into Alan, and then Hope came into our shared world. And I think what I'm really feeling with all of this is that it was all predestined, that we all met each other in different ways. And as a soul group, whatever our connections are, I think it's fabulous that Alan is the Uber networker who brings us together. And obviously there are other Uber networkers in this circle, but I really look forward to listening to everything. And I hope that, I feel the energy, even though it's recorded. So thank you, everyone. I look forward, and really nice to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. Great to see you. And Pauline, okay, I guess this is it. So, thank you. Neil, do you want to leave us, or Jodi, you want to say a closing prayer and then Neil can do it? Since you open the circle, you have to close the circle. And Neil can do his.
Okay, so everyone just take a few deep breaths and close your eyes. And just feel your heart open more than it was before, from before when you first entered this weekend. And allow yourselves to feel inspired in whatever way, shape, or form that comes to you, to be able to take something with you from this day or these 2 days. And to be able to allow yourselves to awaken even more so than you already have. And to allow yourselves to really receive whatever you would like to take or whatever your soul is ready to take from what all of us or some of us or just the whole group as a whole. So knowing that together we're all evolving, and to know that it's time to come into a place of peace within ourselves, to trust as best we can that we make a difference individually and together. And that we were brought together for a reason, this particular group at this time. And that it's allowing everyone to feel connected, not to feel alone in their growth and of evolution, and to know that we're all here for each other, whether we even know each other or not, or ever see each other again or not, or have for people we haven't even seen yet. But that we're all part of the same energy of pure love, the frequency. It's a frequency that has no conditions. It's an all-inclusive frequency. Allow yourselves to feel that you can have compassion for yourself and others and for the world around us. And to really hold in our thoughts and in our hearts that in the future, which can even be a moment from now, we can already all be healed. We can already be evolved. We can already feel that oneness and connection. And that the love never dies. And the answer to all questions is the frequency of love. Know that you are part of that. You make a difference. And feel gratitude for being. And being here with all of us on the same planet at this time and continuing. So be it and so it is, in gratitude and love. Thank you.
Jodi.
Thank you so much, Jodi. So Pauline's mic is actually working now, I believe. So I would love for, is it working, Pauline? Are you here with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go. So just a backstory, but I just want to give you, because we were closing out here, we actually started our panel hour earlier. I was looking for your name in the room, but I forgot I give you the time now, but that's okay. So we just connected with Pauline here in Playa del Carmen. I was walking past a cafe. She was sitting with someone I knew, and I walked up to her and said, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Have you heard of walk-ins?" I'm writing a book on walk-ins, and I'm like, have I? I was with Sheila Seppi doing the first 2-day walk-ins conference, and we connected ever since. She came to a potluck at our house, and I really wanted you to come on here, Pauline, just to share your amazingness and just give us maybe like 5 minutes of who you are, what you're doing, just your story and the book that you're creating.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a fun night meeting you all. So my story, so my book, and if you're a walk-in or an uncomplicated walk-in, as I call them, someone who has not had issues with multiple embodiments, multiple souls embodied. My book is called Who's Holding the Microphone? And it was my experience of coming to the awareness that I am a walk-in. However, there were some issues with that I knew walk-ins existed. I had never shown as one, and was on a journey to find something I didn't know what. And it was on day 500 of a daily walking meditation that I gained the awareness of what was going on. And at that point in time, there were 6 souls embodied. I was living in an energetic soup and had been since the age of 8. And I had been at a meditation retreat. I've been at several of them. I was in one at the end of October of this year. I knew I was going to write a book. I did not know that it was going to happen so quickly and within such a short period of time. And so I attract 100% based on my statistics, walk-ins who are of the Blueprinter soul group. And that's really what the book is about. There's not much information available on blueprinters, not that I have found. I've been given a ton of information on blueprinters, and it's such a beautiful thing because I'll be given awareness of a new type of blueprinter. I used to call them flavors, and within a day or two I would meet one and I'd be like, oh, I know who you are, I know what you are, could I have a conversation with you, because I want to know what your specifics are and what you're here to be the living example of, and how you get messed with. So the book is it's not a long book. It's about 40 pages, and it'll be available for free on my website. Manuscripts and editing right now, and then I'll go into the sound studio and record the audio. And actually, the reading a book on walk-ins is a prerequisite for doing any client work with me. And the information that I have compiled on blueprinters will also be available. I think it's really, really important that we find each other. Everywhere I go, I meet walk-in blueprinters, and the conversations start with, I don't know why I'm contacting you, or I knew when I met you that there was a reason that I met you, and I, I find it hysterical, and I'm just like, yeah, absolutely, I'll have that coffee with you. My meditation community is global, and all the time I'm on Zoom calls with people who've just reached out and said, I don't know why, but I need to talk to you, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I think I have a reason why. And when I jumped on earlier, there was a discussion. Hope was talking about the silo, feeling like she was in a silo. And the tribe is necessary for each of our own evolution. And I find that we as a community, we reveal each other's puzzle pieces. And in community, in conversation, you get your piece, I get my piece, and it's dynamic, it's exponential, and it's multidimensional. And the commonalities of the conversations are so beautiful. And this is how communities awaken. And I am just having so much fun. I just never know what each day is going to hold, who I'm going to meet, and what puzzle piece they're going to bring me and what I'm going to bring them. One of the big things in the last week and a half, which if you're like me, that seems like a couple of years ago, that would seem have been like a 6-month period. Now it's like a week and a half, is the transition from doing to being. And that was one of the big hurdles I found for me of, what am I here to do? It's who am I here to be? And I believe that's when we settle and our light becomes stronger and we attract our tribe. So the book's called Who's Holding the Microphone, and it should be available in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Yes, we are human beings, not human doings.
Yes, and it does seem to be a challenging part of the journey, right? Because we've been programmed into what are you doing to prove your worth, and now it's who are you being? Who are you showing up?
I love it so much. Thank you, Sheila. I'd love you to jump in and share, what your experience is.
Oh, well, again, I'm just so thrilled, and I want to know more about your blueprinting. That sounds so amazing. And it's just like, when you put that intention out to the universe answers. So everywhere you go, you start to meet people, you start to have these conversations. And so I can't wait to hop online and grab your book.
Thank you. It's funny because long before I knew So I've come to realize I'm a blueprinter emissary, advocate, like ambassador here. But before we knew any of this, my friends used to joke around and be like, you're the blueprinter Pied Piper. And we didn't know why. Now it's become more clear. My whole body just broke out in goosebumps. And yeah, so it's fun. It's what a ride. What a ride.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Pauline.
Great.
Thank you for all you are, Pauline. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, to conclude, ready for us?
Yes. All right. Should I conclude with a poem?
Well, how else would
Absolutely.
I know, right? So everybody, I just finished, while the event was going on today, I finished the manuscript for my poetry book, and I just submitted it to the publisher to come out. So in a week, it's going through editing now, starting tomorrow. It's a poetry book. It's one of a series of poetry books. It's the first volume. It's called Planet Earth, Poetry from the Next Dimension. And so the first is coming out with my spoken word album that's done with music, classical music, violin, piano, and all that. So there's 10 tracks with classical music behind it, and then the 10 poems in this book. However, you know, being a Scorpio, I guess, and multiple other things, I couldn't go with just 10. I had to just like dump a whole bunch of stuff in there. So I created a separate section at the end after the first part called The Ancient Scrolls, which are a series of spoken word pieces that I just wanted to add to this. So I'm going to read the first paragraph of the Ancient Scrolls section, which is introducing to the Ancient Scrolls, and then I'm going to do the first poem in that section called Duality. You are about to enter the ancient archives of your planetary system. As you enter this portal through the process of turning these pages, the library of your Terra and other orbiting planets around Sol, your sun will be unveiled. You who are reading this now have heard the call. You were chosen, and you also selected this experience on Earth. This incarnation is a gift that you gifted yourself. Your ancient memories await you, and your extrasensory abilities are ready to reemerge once again. Welcome to the ancient library, the ancient scrolls. The following is esoteric awareness that has been hidden from humanity for eons, presented through the medium of spoken word. With each page you turn, you unlock a key into your own consciousness, thereby unlocking codes within the cosmos. As above, so below. And so it was written. This piece is called Duality. It's okay if sometimes you see darkness. Just remember it teaches us what the light is and how much we miss it. When the absence of presence, eternal resting place for all aquatic bodies, I am every and no body. I know everything and I know nothing at all. I am hate and I am love, fear and trust, pain and bliss, love and lust, sex and a kiss. I am as what has been seen, what will always be, and what will never become. The slumber of delirium. I am the illusion of reality that we think that we are in. I am the confusion of duality of war where no one truly wins. I am the pollution of intellect and youth, where all we believe we do is sin. I am the fusion of like-minded souls to who together will transcend. I am spirituality and organized religion. I am the perception of consciousness manifest into this dimension. I am the lesson, transcend fear and aggression, achieve ascension. I am the new world order. I am the world full of borders, testing my commitment to the recycled universe. I am loyal and I have betrayed. Lied, killed, pillaged, loved, tortured, hated, lusted, trusted, incarnated, and nurtured, all experiences in these universes. You and I, we are all of this. I am the perfect circle, split by the white light and twisted to form the infinite. You see, I am all that is. We are all that is.
Nice. Thank you, Neil. We
Thank
have
you.
some events coming up. See us live and in person in San Diego. Go to portaltoascension.org. See us in Glastonbury in August. And then we're all, some of us anyway, taking a trip to Egypt with JJ and Desiree Hurtak to really open those stargates and activate the higher consciousness that is waiting for us. It'll be next level.
Mhm.
So thank you all for today. Thank you, Neil, Sheila, everyone.
Thank you,
It's-
everybody.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Namaste, everyone.
I must
Much
go.
love.